You walk into a room. You didn't say a word yet. You didn't cut your eyes at nobody. You just walked in, found a spot near the wall where you could see the door, and stood there with your regular face on. And somebody across the room is already whispering to their friend, "I think he's mad." Or, "She seems standoffish." Or the classic, "I couldn't tell if you liked me at first." You liked them fine. You were just standing there. I'm Franklin, and today we're getting into something a lot of Black Gen X folks deal with every single week and don't even clock anymore: the quiet intimidation problem. Not because you're trying to intimidate anybody, because you're normal, you're neutral, you're just standing there. Face was built in a specific time, on a specific block, under specific rules. And other people are reading it through their own filter, which was also built in a specific time, under specific rules. Two different operating systems staring at each other across a break room. That's the whole show. Here's the setup. Pew Research puts Gen X at people born between 1965 and 1980. So we're talking about folks who were teenagers or barely out of the house between about 1978 and the mid-90s. Now overlay that with one specific number. PBS reported on the analysis by economist Roland Fryer that got picked up in Chicago Booth Review. Between 1984 and 1994, the homicide rate for Black males aged 14 to 17 more than doubled. Doubled. In 10 years. During your teenage years, or your cousin's teenage years, or your big brother's teenage years. A real number tied to real blocks. Now think about what a 14-year-old does when the neighborhood shifts like that. You don't have a name for it yet, you just start doing it. You walk in a store and your eyes go to the exits before they go to the snacks. You get on a bus and you clock everybody on it in the first 3 seconds. You hear a car door slam behind you and your shoulders don't move, but your ears just added a new channel. Somebody at school calls your name from behind you and your neck don't whip around. You turn slow, hands visible, face flat until you see who it is. None of that is personality. It's a piece of software that got installed when you were 15, and it never got uninstalled. It couldn't. You needed it. Now fast forward. It's a Tuesday. You're 40-something, maybe 50. You're at work. There's a meeting. You walk in, you find a seat where you can see the door. Not on purpose, your body just does it. You put your notebook down. You look around the table once, quick, taking inventory. You settle your face. You wait to hear what this meeting actually is before you spend any energy on it. Because energy is expensive, and you learned that early. And Karen from marketing thinks you hate her. You don't hate Karen. You don't even know Karen's last name. You were doing threat assessment on a conference room like it was 1989 on the number 9 bus. Same software, different building. There's actual research on this piece of it. There's work out of the University of Colorado Boulder on what they call the police officer's dilemma, the shooter bias studies where they show people images of black and white targets holding either a gun or something harmless like a phone or a wallet and ask them to decide fast. What they find, over and over, is that participants pull the trigger on armed black targets faster than armed white targets, and they're slower to hit "don't shoot" for unarmed black targets. And this ain't just cops. This is regular people in a lab. The brain is picking up black and threat and running them together before the conscious mind even gets in the room. So think about what that means from your side of the table. You are walking around every single day being prejudged as a threat by strangers' nervous systems before you open your mouth. Their body already flinched, their shoulders already tightened, and they don't even know it happened. So when they finally do talk to you, they think their nervous feeling is coming from something you did. It ain't. It's coming from something already sitting in their head. But guess who gets blamed for the temperature in the room? You. And here's where it gets sideways. Because you feel it. You always felt it. You walk in that store and you can tell the lady at the register got tight. You get on that elevator and the woman clutches her bag 2 inches closer, thinks she did it slick. You didn't. Do anything but exist next to her at floor 2. So what did you learn to do? You learned to manage other people's fear of you. As a full-time job, on top of your actual job. That's what psychologists call vigilant coping. There's a study on PubMed Central looking at what they call the discrimination stress model in Black Americans, and vigilant coping is the piece where you're constantly monitoring the environment and modifying your own behavior to head off a bad outcome. Watching your tone, watching your volume, watching your hands, watching how close you stand, making sure you smile at the checkout lady before she has a chance to get weird, announcing yourself when you walk up to somebody at night so they don't jump, keeping your voice one click softer than you actually feel. And the research found something worth sitting with. That vigilance, that constant background monitoring, is linked to higher levels of stress. It costs you. It ain't free. You're running a program in the background every waking hour, and it's eating your battery. But here's the part people miss. When you finally get tired, or you're at home, or you're around people you trust, and you let the smile drop and let the volume come back to normal, and let your face just do whatever it wants, people who only ever saw the managed version of you think something's wrong. You okay? You seem different. You're not different. You just stopped performing for a minute. What they liked was the performance. What they read as your neutral was actually you working. Now let's get into the face itself, because this part is wild. There's a paper by Heyman, Leitner, and Gartner published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology in 2013 that looked at what actually makes a neutral face register as intimidating to other people. And they found two things move the needle in a measurable way. 1. The width to height ratio of the face, how wide your face is compared to how tall it is. And 2. Head tilt. A face that's a little wider, with a head held level, gets rated as more dominant and more intimidating, even when the expression is completely blank. Not angry, not glaring, blank. And the Association for Psychological Science has covered a whole line of research on this facial width to height ratio, or FWHR, showing it drives judgments about dominance and threat in professional settings. People are making calls about you, whether you're aggressive, whether you're trustworthy, whether you should be in charge, off the shape of your face, before you talked. Then layer on work published in Memory and Cognition looking specifically at how people process faces with more Afrocentric features. What they found is that those faces get read as more threatening even when the expression is neutral. Same blank face, different features, different reading. Add all that up. You've got a face people are already primed to misread. You've got a head that learned to hold level and steady because looking down got you jumped and looking up got you clocked as soft. You've got a neutral expression that was carved by 10 years of not letting the world see what you were thinking. And you're walking into a Panera Bread trying to order a sandwich, and somebody at the next table thinks you're about to flip a car. This is where I gotta bring the sisters in, because Black Gen X women are catching a whole different version of this, and it's documented. Harvard Business Review ran a piece in 2022 straight up called The Angry Black Woman Stereotype at Work, and they laid out the research showing that organizations perceive black women as more hostile, more aggressive, more ill-tempered than other groups, often for behavior that would be called assertive or direct or results-oriented, coming out of somebody else's mouth. Same behavior, different reading. And it ain't once in a while, it's the pattern. Then there's a piece from Davis Wright Tremaine's Project W in 2024 that covers work by Dr. Keisha Thomas on what she calls the pet-to-threat pattern. This one will make you sit down. Black women often walk into a new job and get treated like the pet at first, the shiny new hire, the one everybody's excited about, the one who's articulate and smart and delightful. And then somewhere between month 6 and year 2, once she starts asking real questions, wanting a real seat, expecting a real promotion, the reading flips. Now she's difficult. Now she's aggressive. Now she's intimidating. Same woman, same voice, same everything. The pet became a threat because she stopped being small. The Griot ran a piece in 2024 with a woman talking about being passed over for a promotion because, and this is real, out of her manager's mouth, she was so articulate and sharp that it was intimidating to some people. Being good at your job was the reason you didn't get the job. Not a movie plot, a Tuesday. Lean In's Women in the Workplace research quantified some of it. Black women are getting promoted at lower rates than white women at the first step up to manager. More than a quarter of black women say race has cost them a chance at advancement, and they get 3 to 4 times the amount of what researchers call othering comments that white women get. The little side pieces about their hair, their name, their tone, whether they're really from here. So when a Black Gen X woman walks into a meeting quiet, watching, taking her time before she speaks, and then when she does speak she is clear and precise and doesn't fill the air with fluff, the room already had a stereotype loaded up and waiting for her. She didn't build the trap, she just walked past it and got called intimidating by the person who said it. Before I keep going, I've been working on something on the side, a book called Psychology of Black Gen X Men. It gets into the stuff that got wired into you young and what it's doing to you now, the patterns you can't quite explain about yourself. Links in the description if you want to look. And to everyone watching and sharing this stuff, genuinely, thank you. All right, let's talk about the mouth. Black Gen X folks often have what I'll call economy of words. You don't waste them. You say what needs to be said, and then you're done. You don't repeat yourself twice for the balcony seats. You don't dress up a no with 14 apologies. You don't answer a question you weren't asked. And that trait, on its own, is beautiful. It's efficient. It respects your time and everybody else's. But here's how it lands on people who grew up in households where words were used to fill silence, smooth feelings, and reassure the room. To them, your economy sounds like coldness. Your one word, yeah, sounds like you're mad. Your not immediately responding to their email sounds like you're plotting. You're not plotting. You already answered them on Monday and you don't feel like typing, sounds good, with an exclamation point on a Thursday about it. But now they're telling their manager they feel unsafe in your emails. Unsafe in your emails because you didn't put a smiley face. Same thing with eye contact. A lot of Black Gen X folks hold eye contact. Steady, firm without being aggressive. Part of it is respect. Part of it is you learned early that people who look away are the ones who are hiding something, and you weren't going to be that. So you hold the gaze. You listen with your whole face. You don't blink and fidget and dart your eyes around like you're doing math. To somebody who wasn't raised that way, that steady look is unsettling. They think you're staring them down. They think you're challenging them. They can't hold it and they need you to look away first, and when you don't, they decide it's because you're trying to dominate them. You weren't. You were listening. Hard. Like your mama told you to. Now here's a piece I want you to sit with. There's research on what people call resting neutral faces. The idea that when a face is at rest, other people can't help but read a mood into it. They overgeneralize from the face they see to a personality they assume. So a face that's calm reads as bored. A face that's still reads as unbothered. A face that's flat reads as angry. And once they've assigned that emotion to your face, they build a whole story about your character out of it. That's the mechanism behind every "you always look mad" comment you got in your life. They weren't looking at your mood. They were looking at your face and filling in the mood themselves. And research on race-based traumatic stress in Black Americans talks about hypervigilance as an adaptation, this constant background scanning of the environment for cues of danger. The work frames it as a learned response to living in a specific set of conditions over time, and it names something a lot of us have called a sixth sense our whole lives. That thing where you knew somebody at the cookout was about to act up before they said a word. That thing where you can walk in a house and feel that an argument just happened. That thing where you know when a manager's about to try you 3 days before they try you. That sixth sense is real, not magic. Pattern recognition built up over a lifetime of needing to size up a situation before it sized you up. And it works. But the same antenna that keeps you 2 steps ahead of trouble is the antenna that makes strangers feel like they're being x-rayed when they meet you. Because they are. And they can tell. Even if they can't name it, they can feel you clocking them. And people don't like being clocked, even when it's harmless. So now let me pull all this together, because this is where the whole thing lives. You've got a generation of Black folks, nearly 50 million Black Americans in the country as of Pew's numbers, with a big cohort born between 65 and 80, who came up during a peak violence stretch, learned to read situations as a survival skill, built faces that don't advertise their business, and mouths that don't spend words they didn't budget for. Their neutral got carved by conditions. Call it craft. Meanwhile, the people they're standing next to at work are running on nervous systems that were trained by their own conditions. And part of that training, whether they know it or not, includes shooter bias style reactions where Black bodies register as threat pre-consciously at the level of milliseconds. Add facial features that research shows get read as more threatening even at rest. Add the angry Black woman stereotype waiting for the sisters. Add the pet to threat flip waiting for anybody who dares to want a promotion. And what you get is a whole generation whose everyday, no drama, going about their business version of themselves is being read by other people as hostile. And then those other people go home and tell their partner, "He's so intense. She's so aggressive. I can never tell what he's thinking." When the truth is, you're not intense, you're not aggressive, and you weren't thinking anything. You were just at target. Here's the part that matters. You don't have to fix it. You can. You can code switch harder, smile bigger, Tilt your head 16 degrees. Sprinkle exclamation points on your emails like hot sauce on eggs. Some of y'all do. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's wrong. Because sometimes you need the check, and the check requires the performance, and that's the deal for the day. But you should at least know what you're doing when you do it. You're doing accent work on your entire body to translate yourself into a dialect somebody else can read without flinching. That's labor. Real labor. And it costs. The vigilant coping research says so, that constant self-monitoring wears you down. And the flip side of knowing that is this. When somebody tells you you're intimidating and you were just standing there, they might not be telling you something about you. They might be telling you something about them. What their nervous system did when you walked in. What story their brain wrote about a neutral face. What stereotype was already loaded up before you said hello. You didn't intimidate them. Their own wiring did. You just happened to be in the room while it happened. Quick thing before I go. Psychology of Black Gen X men came out of doing this channel and realizing all these topics connect into one bigger story about how you got built. So to everyone who was able to get it, or anyone thinking about it, thank you for supporting the channel. Genuinely. It's in the description if you want to check it out. We'll leave it there. The video on the screen, that's your next one. Tap it.